Disgusted. Absolutely disgusted, man. The WNBA players, the WNBPA, all of these people involved, man, they have literally done everything they can to kill off the league, to kill off the Caitlin Clark hype, to kill off the Caitlin Clark fandom, to push her fans away because of their jealousy, their ego. They're mad that this didn't happen because of them. All of this stuff, all the things they claimed they wanted, they did not care about sabotaging it because they were not the reason for these things.
Okay, so here's what just went down. The WNBA literally destroyed their own miracle moment. Caitlin Clark delivered everything they dreamed of. Packed arenas, massive revenue streams, national spotlight. Now look what happened. Teams are refusing to book NBA venues for her games. Last season, they moved 9 games to bigger arenas. This year, just 4. The league basically sabotaged their own breakthrough through pure jealousy, and now they're watching everything crumble. This is how they completely wrecked their own success story. Can the WNBA even come back from pushing away their biggest draw and all those fans? Or have they already burned it all down?
So now they don't care. They've sabotaged the entire product. They've turned people off. They've turned business off. They've pushed business away to the point where now Caitlin Clark games are not being added to as many NBA arenas. This is sad for the business. This is money lost. You guys want more money?
Talk about throwing away everything you've ever wanted. What the WNBA and their players managed to pull off here is honestly mind-blowing. Picture this. Everything gets handed to you perfectly. Sold-out crowds everywhere. National TV coverage. Mainstream media talking about your league. Major sponsors fighting to get involved. All thanks to one single player bringing that magic. So what's their move? They systematically tore it apart through petty jealousy and massive ego. Now reality is smacking them right in the face. And honestly, they earned every bit of this mess they created. Check out these numbers that just came out, and they're absolutely devastating. 9 Indiana Fever road games got bumped up to NBA arenas last season. This year we're down to 4. That's over half gone. Teams that were literally fighting each other to host Caitlin Clark games because they knew it meant instant sellouts and huge money are now stepping back. Chicago Sky, Dallas Wings, Washington Mystics, Connecticut Sun, Atlanta Dream. They all made moves last year. Most of them are sitting this one out now.
As we continue to chug along in this WNBA offseason, the gift that keeps on giving, we have to get into this article here, man. This is sad. It's actually embarrassing that they have let jealousy and all these other things ruin such a great thing. This is on Front Office Sports. Here it says, teams move, fewer Fever visits.
Want to know what makes this whole situation so maddening? This isn't about Caitlin losing her appeal or anything like that. The Fever still pulled in 15,884 fans average on the road last season. That's 4,000 more than any other team managed. Every single game they moved to a bigger arena sold out completely. The demand is absolutely real, and the numbers prove it. So why are teams backing away from booking those NBA venues now? Simple. They can't count on Caitlin actually being able to play. And who created that problem? The exact same players and coaches who spent 12 months treating her like she was in some kind of combat sport. They put her through absolute warfare during that rookie season. What happened on those courts wasn't basketball anymore. It was straight-up violence happening right in front of officials. Caitlin took more flagrant fouls than anyone in league history, not because she plays dangerously, but because other players made her their personal target while refs just watched it happen.
Injury-riddled season. Indiana had 9 road games moved to larger arenas last year, but just 4 so far for 2026. Now, her injury-riddled season. Why was she hurt? Because in her rookie season, y'all beat the hell out of her. Y'all beat the crap out of her to the point where she went and felt the need to bulk up and look like The Rock going out there. If you smell what the Clark is cooking. She had to go.
So Commissioner Kathy Engelbert just sat there in her office, watching players deliberately hurt the league's biggest moneymaker. She watched officials completely ignore obvious fouls, dangerous plays, and outright attacks on Caitlin. Her response? Absolutely nothing. Those referees couldn't handle a pickup game at the local gym, let alone manage a professional league. They allowed straight-up street ball rules whenever Caitlin stepped on the court. Players were hip-checking her, clotheslining her, undercutting her on jump shots, and somehow the whistles never made a sound. Caitlin's solution? She bulked way up. added serious muscle mass because she figured out she needed to physically survive just to play the game she loves. She completely transformed her body because the league refused to give her any protection at all. The result? Injuries started piling up. She fought through injury problems all during her second season, because her body wasn't built to carry that extra muscle while performing at elite level. That groin injury that shut down her season happened back in July. She only managed to get through 13 total games.
There's still not a CBA deal in place, so there's that in all of this, and I would keep this in mind. But we've got the sports media proclaiming that the other WNBA teams have basically decided that the Caitlin Clark effect is over, that it's a wrap, that no longer do WNBA fans want to fill NBA arenas.
Teams had already committed to those expensive arena bookings. Assuming she'd stay healthy, Chicago Sky moved games to United Center, and when Caitlin showed up, it was packed. When she couldn't play because of injuries or schedule conflicts, those same venues had tons of empty seats. These organizations lost serious money because they couldn't guarantee their investment would pay off. That's completely because the league let Caitlin get physically destroyed by other players. Now teams are gun-shy about the whole thing. They're not booking NBA arenas months ahead because they have no clue if Caitlin will even be available to play. They learned their lesson from what happened last year. They moved games, spent big money on larger venues, did all the marketing, and then she couldn't play because someone had hurt her again. That's terrible business. Atlanta Dream plays in this tiny arena with about 4,300 seats, and they're not moving their game to State Farm Arena yet. They're waiting to see if the risk makes sense. But there's an even bigger problem nobody wants to address. The players and their union actively drove fans away on purpose. All that jealousy, hostility, constantly downplaying what Caitlin brought to the table, it completely turned people off. Fans came ready to support the whole league. They showed up for Caitlin but were totally willing to get behind other players too. Instead, they got nothing but hostility, physical attacks on the player they wanted to see, and constant complaining about the attention she received. Media followed right along with that attitude. Where's all the coverage now? ESPN barely mentions the WNBA anymore. Fox Sports completely moved on. All those analysts who wouldn't stop talking about women's basketball during Caitlin's first season, totally silent now. Stephen A. Smith isn't discussing it. Colin Cowherd isn't discussing it. Nick Wright isn't discussing it. Jason Whitlock called out the league and moved on to other topics. And Monica McNutt, who built her whole platform covering the WNBA, has gone completely quiet. Does she still work at ESPN? Because she's definitely not up there talking about women's basketball these days. That mainstream attention vanished because the product became impossible to watch. Not because the basketball got worse, but because everything around it became toxic. Fans tuned in expecting basketball and instead watched officials ignore obvious fouls, players targeting Caitlin, and league leadership refusing to fix any of it. That's not entertainment, that's pure frustration. People stopped watching, stopped caring, stopped talking about it completely. Just look at what happened with those moved games last season. Chicago Sky booked United Center twice. When Caitlin played, those games sold out instantly. When she couldn't play because of injury, the attendance dropped like a rock. Angel Reese wasn't even playing by then. Crowds came for one specific player, and when she wasn't available, they stayed home. That's the brutal truth. The league keeps refusing to accept. Caitlin isn't just one draw among many. She's the only real draw they have. This season's WNBA schedule shows 19 total games moved to different arenas compared to 15 last year. Sounds promising until you dig deeper and realize most of that increase comes from Toronto Tempo being an expansion team. Tempo is playing 5 home games outside their usual venue, including games in Montreal and Vancouver. That accounts for the bump in numbers. Remove expansion team logistics, and games moved specifically because teams expect massive crowds actually decreased. The 4 Fever Road games scheduled for bigger venues are July 5 against Aces, August 8 against Sky, August 18 against Tempo, and August 20 against Wings. Notice those dates? They're all later in the season. Teams are literally waiting to see if Caitlin stays healthy before spending money on expensive venue changes. That shows how much trust got destroyed by letting her get injured over and over last season. Here's what really went down. The WNBA finally got everything they claimed they wanted for years. Players spent decades complaining about wanting more coverage, higher salaries, bigger audiences, mainstream attention. Caitlin Clark handed them all of that on a silver platter. She brought fans who never watched women's basketball before, She brought corporate sponsors with real money. She brought legitimate media coverage. She brought sellout crowds to road games everywhere. Instead of protecting that gift, instead of nurturing their golden opportunity, the players and league systematically destroyed it all. The jealousy was impossible to miss from day one. Players couldn't stand that some young woman from Iowa was the reason for their success. They wanted credit for their own work, recognition for players who'd been grinding in the league for years. When the spotlight stayed on Caitlin, they decided they'd rather burn everything down than share the attention. That's not business strategy. That's pure ego-destroying opportunity. Teams are still hesitant even now. Chicago Sky would be smart to move games to United Center once they confirm Caitlin is healthy and available. Atlanta Dream would be foolish not to move their game to State Farm Arena when Caitlin comes to town. They play in a venue that barely fits anyone and could multiply their revenue 5 times with one venue change. But they're hesitating because of uncertainty created by last season's injury problems. Even without injury concerns, the league pushed fans away through their treatment of Caitlin. People don't want to watch a league where officials are incompetent, where star players get targeted with violence, where union leadership openly hates their biggest draw. That's not entertainment. That's complete dysfunction. Caitlin did everything humanly possible to save this league. She brought attention, revenue, legitimacy, mainstream acceptance to women's basketball. She lifted everyone's boat by growing the entire market. Everyone's salary could have been higher because she expanded the pie for everybody. What did she get back? Physical abuse, jealousy, resentment, and injuries that threatened her whole career. Now teams won't book venues for her games because they can't trust she'll be healthy enough to play. The WNBA had a once-in-lifetime opportunity with a superstar who transcended the sport, who brought casual fans into the fold, who made women's basketball relevant in mainstream sports discussion. They completely blew it. They let jealousy, ego, and total incompetence destroy their own success story. Teams that don't move games to bigger arenas are going to lose money. Fans who got pushed away aren't coming back easily. Media coverage that disappeared isn't returning just because the league suddenly wants attention again. The damage is real and completely self-inflicted. They'd rather sink the whole ship than let someone else be captain. The WNBA played themselves and now they're paying the price.